right, first off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out, give me a bit of your time today. So before I go through this, I want to tell you I'm not the sales guy, so I hate doing PowerPoint by PowerPoint by PowerPoint, so please ask questions. If you have anything you want to see, you have to go through a demonstration, don't hesitate. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you up front. If I can, hopefully it'll be a good answer. It might not be the one you like, but if it's the right answer, I'll tell you. So I'm Malcolm Hyson, CTO for Discover Technologies. We specialize primarily in enterprise search, with our specialization being on an emphasis on both products and the services on. So cover a bit about the company here. So who are we? Doing my due diligence for the company sending us here. We're an ISV services company. A bit on the company profile. We're founded in 2009, late December. After the company we worked for previously, Microlinks, was purchased by Autonomy. Some of you know, probably have heard of Autonomy. Autonomy and Fast was a big 800-pound gorilla in search at the time. We were a big Autonomy partner and also a big Microsoft shop. So we had a very unique space that we played in, which got us back into Fast in the old ESP days, right along the lines of the Microsoft acquisition. People used to ask, how do you, do both Fast and Autonomy? My answer was simple. I can collect cash in both hands. So it made it quite easy. So, but no, it's, some similarities with the product, some unique differences. Everyone has their preference based on where you like to develop. I tell you, my preference was the Fast, which is why I am where I am now versus Autonomy. So it worked out well. All right. So a few of our early customers, CEO and founder of Discover is also the CEO and founder of Microlinks. So once again, when we were purchased by Autonomy, we negotiated the IP rights out to several of the products we had started to build at Microlink, as well as a few of the patents we actually had submitted, and that's how we spun off the Discover Technologies arm. Myself, again, several years in IT development is my core focus. Started with Microlinks about 7 years ago, where 4 individuals and myself, we jokingly stated, fired management, and started the Microsoft practice over at Microlinks. And we have some of our sales and marketing arms there also. All right, so just a quick, brief covering a description of what we offer. 4 core products. The one I'll talk about a bit today is called SharePoint. Advanced Connector Engine, basically allow you to pull data from a component into search. Simple search framework, pull data out of search into SharePoint. The SharePoint Cloud, hosted services and Fast, and again, our core services practice. All right, so now I've done my due diligence. We can stop talking about the company. All right, good. So first off, again, the subject of the conversation is using search to find expertise and dynamically find expertise. And the first thing we always get asked when we start talking about our offering is, well, doesn't SharePoint already do expertise search? You look at the Microsoft stack, and they tell you, hey, you've got my site, social tagging, grading, bookmarks, user profiles. You've got all those features for expertise. And yes, SharePoint does that. But I always like to ask this when I get a group of people. How many people here have Facebook pages? Can you put your hand up? Oh, lightweight, man. This is going to be okay. How many of you have updated your Facebook page in the past month? Might even get easier then. All right. The Microsoft guy. If I'm in a large room, I can tell you I get a room full of hands raised when I ask about Facebook. I've even gone down through the week and I'll see still a room full of hands. I ask about my site, and same thing. I'll get normally a few less, but a good amount of hands raised. When I ask up to 6 months, I still have the room is clear at that point. So what I always state is at that point, if that's your primary means of expertise search, then it's already stale. It's already 6 months stale at this point. Again, great features if your users use them. one of the reasons we started taking this approach was, again, in Microlink, what we found with our two practices, our SharePoint practice and our enterprise search practice, was that people wanted expertise search. We kept building these solutions, so they put in user databases, take in these user entry forms, and grab all this content, provide good expertise search. But the problem was finding those experts. You couldn't get people to fill out the mod site. Rarely filled out, if ever, rarely updated. Recommendations. You look at the SharePoint recommendations model. Again, good if you use it. But what's it based on? With our research, some of the things we found is a term called social locality, which is those of you who are Facebook users or LinkedIn users. How about LinkedIn users? How many of those we have? Quite a few. Social locality is based on, I know Carlos. Carlos knows Jameet. Therefore, Jameet is the person I should probably talk to. Great from a social networking and a professional networking perspective. Not really too good from an enterprise networking perspective. Why? Because you get effectively the water cooler crowd is what I call it. Is you get all the people that you work with in that office. How about the guy, I'm in New York, how about the guy that's in LA that has the same type of interest that we could collaborate and actually get something done, something productive done. That's not there natively with the current experience. It's not based on knowledge, it's based on relationships. Again, good from social, but from an enterprise networking and knowledge perspective, somewhat lacking. Lastly, those of you familiar with Fast SharePoint, I'm assuming everyone here is familiar with the platform. If not, we'll have another discussion. Even if you install Fast SharePoint natively and get it up and running, everything coming along, you do all your integration efforts, you integrate all your systems, your expertise search still comes from the enterprise search platform, not Fast, for SharePoint underneath. So, why Microsoft purchased this great product, integrated in SharePoint, and didn't pull the experts in is beyond me, but that's the way it works. So that's something to keep in mind when you do expertise search in SharePoint. All right, so how do you solve that? Well, if you look at it, those of you familiar with Fast, Fast has some capabilities, especially with documents. When I can take a document, I can say, here's an item of interest, and give me similar documents. So if you look at that and kind of turn the focus and look at the users will give you all types of hints about what they're interested in, who they are, where you can recommend them as experts per se. They're doing all types of online work products, documents, wikis, blogs, SharePoint, list entries. They're working every day inside your solution. They're giving you loads of content that tell you who they are. I can look at someone's work product and kind of get a general idea of, okay, if I look at my marketing officer's work product, it's going to be around marketing, sales, or communication. I look at my work product, it's more around development, team management. Those are where my work product lies. Other things you can do, usage patterns. In SharePoint, you can see where people click, what they use, what they consume. You can look at site analytics. There's a wealth of information out there that people are telling you who they are and what they want to see. So whenever I think that, the next question I always get asked is, well, what about a new person in my organization that hasn't done anything? Well, based on, if you've got all this for everyone in your organization, you have a base profile for a new person inside that comes into your business. Whether they're in the same organization, same group, you have basically a standard profile to recommend them on, or if they have similar job functions, so you have similar profiling capabilities, you can give them recommendations from that context. And in short, as you use your platform day to day, if the subject matter is important, you will write about it, read about it, or search for it at some point. Think of your daily uses with your current SharePoint systems. You are day in, day out, either email, writing documents, writing PowerPoints, about things of interest to you. So you're giving that system, again, plenty of detail about what you want and who you are. All right, so with that, how do we find the individuals? This is your typical search scenario. Again, very compelling from a Fast SharePoint perspective. Please, again, everyone tell me they've seen this. You've seen Fast SharePoint. You've seen the document previews, the refinement counts. Excellent, great display. One of the products I talked about, the accessible search framework. That's the product, like I said, we built years ago, and the sole purpose was to pull data out of enterprise search, fast CSP at the time, and pop it right into SharePoint. We were doing all these engagements where we were setting up these large farms, and then we had to do a UI integration effort with SharePoint after the fact. We built the product for it. SharePoint 2010 comes out. I hear a customer that's going fast with SharePoint. My comment to them is, don't talk to us about our product. We're not touching that. You got it already. Use what's there. Yes, great view, very compelling. Great when the consumer is looking for a specific item. What is it lacking in my opinion? It's Search Center focus. So think about it. Where do you see faster SharePoint inside the SharePoint platform outside of the Search Center? You have a box in the top right-hand corner as you go through the SharePoint experience, but where else do you see it? You don't. If you spend, especially if you get a great design guy that builds this extreme user experience, and we've worked with some phenomenal design guys. Again, I'm not your design guy. If you want to see what I developed, it's going to be a box with lines. Congratulations. Go for it. Cause trouble. But great design guys really know how to bring people into the experience. They know how to effectively feed them information without the user asking for it. Well, once you get to search, you're back out of that experience and back to the Search Center. How do we attack that? We want to drive the user experience with search. What we want to do is, the term we always use is hit them where they live. Wherever they are in SharePoint, give them a way to interact with search. Give them content that's related to what they're doing. Give them information that's dynamically changing based on where they are. What we call that, we basically shake that, the term we use is called recommendation context. So we have 5 different contexts we like to use. First one is expertise. Based on what you produce, your authorship of documents, SharePoint content, other systems that you can be associated as an author, we can build effectively what we call an expertise profile. So now that I know that you built all this content, I have some way to now shape a recommendations context based on what you do and what you produce. Usage. Okay, that can be completely separate from expertise. I can be an expert at something all day long, but I can sit there, matter of fact, my counterpart Bruce Stover just walked in the back, and I can navigate every document Bruce produces. So, again, my documents will be more technically focused, but my usage context may be more marketing focused based on the content I'm viewing, and that can shape and change over time as I use the system. That's another context. Content. The content context is, let's say I open up a document. So I've now actually gotten to an item of interest with my great UI guy who's designed this compelling experience. So if I read this document, I now know you're interested in this specific document. That's another context we can use. With view context, we use that more at a site level. So if you're interested in, if you're viewing a site, look at the site itself, but then take not just the site and the description, which is what you get with typical search right now, but take some of the contents underneath, the documents, the list entry, and you can build a context to shape your recommendations from there. And finally, the term context, probably what most people are familiar with, effectively a search term. If I have a set of search terms, I know you're interested in these type of items. So using that context in relation and in combination with some of the other ones, we can give you some compelling search scenarios that become, again, part of the user experience, not just a search and retrieval inside a search box. So how do you deliver what we consider a search-driven user experience? Several ways, the typical SharePoint web part scenario. Again, they can be placed, anywhere in SharePoint. Anybody who's familiar with the SharePoint platform knows the web part model. I'll talk about some other ways to do deep integration, in my opinion, that don't require web part pages. Because if you think about it with SharePoint, it's nice. You can customize pages all day long, but how do you get that same experience on every single page inside your platform? You have to account for that. So one of the things we like to do is, again, leverage SharePoint as the faster SharePoint as the normalization tier, as I call it. So again, this is very SharePoint focused, but if you have CRM entries, file systems, you name it, if you can plug it into that model, effectively you can search and retrieve it. So again, it becomes a great normalization tier, great way to expose your content and data from other platforms. Dynamic targeting, if the data is in that repository, you can target it at the right point in time. And again, one of our core focuses is really no user training. How do you get a user to leverage search without having to train them to use it. Again, if you use the enterprise search platform, everyone's typing a set of search terms to click the refinements. It's a pretty seamless experience. It makes sense. Now, we all know, and I hope there are not too many end users on the line, if you ask your end users to do that, they get lost after the second click. We have to give them a way to get the relevance, get the information out without asking them to, here's where you go next. Look, let me take you over here. Let's feed it to them. It's kind of like, you hate to say it, taking a baby. I'm not going to ask you to cook your dinner. I'm going to just come over and I'm going to just spoon feed it to you. So we have to find a way to do that with search. And I always make a point, don't make them think. That's going to be your downfall. Once they have options that aren't put right in front of them, it all goes downhill from there. And lastly, one of the key features, when you do a good search-driven user experience, you can guarantee platform adoption. Again, here at a group of enterprise search experts, what's one of your critical issues is after you've done this big integration effort, how do you actually get people to use it? I mean, I've seen some phenomenal work done that's left on the shelf because the end users just aren't interested in jumping to the platform. How do you actually leverage that investment, all that time and effort and money spent to really deliver the experience at that point? So those are key items to take into account. This kind of covers just some of the contextual recommendations. This is where I talked about being able to take a document, content context, and be able to recommend experts, sites, and in this case, documents. The concept of drill down, similar to refiners. Instead of having refinements, what we do is we give you the item and let you click on the items themselves. So if I click on these discovered items, it'll give me another pane that'll have the document context and then the subsequent recommendations on the right-hand side. Again, not much for an end user to understand this. I'm reading this document, this data is pushed to me, all right out of search. I haven't asked the end user to click on an item. I haven't asked him to run a search. I haven't asked him to do anything outside of view the document, which he was going to do anyway. But now what we're doing is we're feeding him information via search that may be of interest. I'm not asking him to click a refinement. If you're interested in Les Hayden right there, click the icon. Jump to Les Hayden and get his discovered context. Now you get an expertise context that's now information targeted to that view. Think about the end user adoption experience. How many times do you have to tell someone, look, just click that. Just click that if you're interested. It becomes a natural experience. It's more in line with the SharePoint look and feel. Search without the box. So, again, context-aware application. And I'll go through some of this in the demo. You got to see some of this in a bit more detail. Have search page site relatives. So you can see the context right there. Again, I'm not asking my end user to do anything. Keywords. Make it keyword relative. If you highlight it, put it in front of them. Don't ask them to jump to search, copy, paste, search. Now you're out of the experience. Stick it right in front of them. You can't avoid it. You highlight it, it's there. Do you want to use it? Yes. If you don't, go on. But make it all part of that user experience. Keep them, again, put them where they live. They live right here inside SharePoint. They don't live in search centers. They live here. Put it in front of them. Make it easy to use. No manual entry. Don't ask the user to do anything, outside of browse content. Make it interactive. People like seeing things pop up in front of them at the right point in time. Hey, this is ready. Do you want it? And also, if you're from a design perspective, when you build this type of interface, these types of experiences, leave it open-ended. Again, we targeted, normally we put a data controller on the back end. All the user interface is done via CSS, jQuery, XSLT. So users can completely customize and run with it, and customers. Some of our best successes have been done with customers that we've worked on an engagement, we've got enterprise search installed, we've got it up and running. They call us, say, hey, how do we interact with this component? We give them maybe a short training session, and only to hear them come back and tell us, well, hey, we took X, Y, and Z, and now we've expanded it to, A, B, C, D on down the line. One key example with that was we did work with NGA, and they took one of our products, and they were interested in not just seeing search results displayed, in line with content, but they wanted to see the map of those results because, again, they're graphically focused. They wanted to see them laid out on a map. So they took the UI, put in their own mapping tools and completely integrated that without our help. Phenomenal study, phenomenal case, without having to build, again, keeping with the user to meet what the users needed. Some real-world uses. I guess I didn't really cover it on the first slide, but Microlink was based out of Vienna, Virginia, which is close to D.C., heavy Department of Defense. We had a lot of guys, as we talked about, the guys at Fire Management, like myself, were paramilitary, had TS clearances, so we kind of gave us a pretty solid niche from a SharePoint world. So we got to work with some interesting projects. One of my favorite projects was one we did with a DoD customer. I can't mention their name, but I can mention they were a DoD customer, and they had a very good use case for enterprise search. Their job was the detection and then subsequent basic build detection methods and subsequently ways to defeat IED attacks in Afghanistan and Iraq. And they had a whole center built around that, whereas they basically had a call center that when you were going out into the field in Fallujah, you could say, hey, what have you seen, what's new? And they would say, here's a packet, here's a site to go to, and they ran this on top of SharePoint and FAST. What they use FAST for? Research documents. So if I found a unique attack, what are the other items that are related to it? The recommendation contacts. So hey, who are the guys that have actually written material around this? So it's great if you're in the field that I can give you a 50-page document, but you probably don't want to read it on your way out the door. You want to talk to the guy that knows what he's doing and that can help you out. So we gave them those capabilities leveraging this platform. We were very proud of that effort. They got accredited, or the program was accredited with reducing the IED deaths by, I want to say 75%. Because that came in, again, they put that program together as an action team after they started seeing these events starting to bubble up initially over in the field. Legal recommendations. Think about it. If you can recommend, based on the content, you can recommend documents of precedent, internal legal contact, expertise per se. Law enforcement. A lot of people get kind of wary when we talk about this, but a lot of this technology was built out of work we did with some law enforcement agencies, targeting people of interest. So, if I know Carlos, and I know Carlos' patterns, and I look at Bruce left, I was going to target him next, and I look at Bruce, you know, Bruce shops at the same places as Carlos. Bruce does the same thing as Carlos. Bruce hangs out with Carlos a lot. We actually aren't interested in Bruce, but now we should be, and you can use this technology to actually do that. And also geomapping. Again, if you're tracking that information, you can plot it, you can display it, and you can make it useful to the end user. All right. So I'll jump to the demo platform. Any questions? Real quick, you guys have been pretty quiet, and no one's hitting their head on the table, so far so good. So, you guys get enough pizza? No. All right. No questions? All right. So before I cover the
demo templates for the XSLTs and such, you mentioned that it's open to customization, so the search results, I would presume. So do you have any actual templates available for search results?
We don't have any published ones. We do have ones that we've helped out with from the search result perspective. So
yeah, making those available probably help you guys along in the product.
Yeah, absolutely. We can give you some sample templates. I guess actually, so one point of note with that in mind, I was talking about the user search being served out of enterprise search for SharePoint, not fast for SharePoint. Just because it's done that way doesn't mean you can't use fast for SharePoint for user search. We've actually done this with a client. If you look at it, there are ways to map the fields underneath. It's the standard map and drill, standard Excel search. You can do that. And you can leverage the fast search platform to get those user expertise results right out of fast. Again, better fidelity, better content matching. Okay. So before I jump into it, just kind of give you a general scope on the platform I'm about to show. So based on DHS content, the Department of Homeland Security, those of you who aren't familiar with it, spread across 6 organizations. We actually built the platform out built out an organizational chart with over 380 users, went out and grabbed 4 terabytes worth of content and assigned them to different user accounts, segmented to their appropriate area. So we could test security, model out recommendations, and make sure that we were getting valid results based on the content itself. Always bring up the fact that it's publicly available data, so nothing we say here will be can be used against you once you leave the room. All right. And more importantly, none of my users in this platform have any My Site profile data filled out. So all of our targeting, all of our recommendations are done solely based on content inside the platform. No My Site, no Active Directory outside of filling out the organizational structure, and that's it. Again, if your users do take the time, I'm not disparaging My Site, don't get me wrong. If your users take the time to fill that out, you want to use it and you want to leverage it. But again, just in what we've seen from a day-to-day basis, getting an organization to really adopt My Site and use it on a regular basis is a bear. The CEO of Microlink, now CEO of Discover, used to state that outside of threatening people that they'll be fired, could he get that thing filled out? And that was the truth, myself included, but that's another story. So, all right, so let me jump to the platform. Okay. All right, so here we've got your typical web part scenario, and this is where I want to cover the discussion I talked about context. So what you see are 3 different web parts on the page that are basically rendering information or delivering information based on 3 different search contexts. One context is expertise. So suggested colleagues, people that have produced information similar to my user, Kip Werner. Top right. Suggested documents. Again, using his expertise context, what documents are related to him inside the organization. Again, the nice thing is using faster SharePoint, we adhere to all the security and leverage all those features. And suggested sites. The key feature here, and not to be overlooked, is the fact that the site suggestions aren't solely based on title and description. They're based on the site and also the child documents underneath. So that is a unique offering and a unique way to leverage search to really give what a site means per se versus what it's described as. Let's say Kip is actually interested in a specific document. Again, if he selects it, this is where we change our context. And we go to the content recommendations context. My screen's a bit small, I'm adjusted here. There we go. Content recommendations. So now, if he's interested in this document, let's change our recommendations context to now experts. So here are the experts, people that have produced information similar to what you're viewing. We can recommend, again, the same targets, sites, and sites that contain specific information similar to what you're viewing. And again, discovered documents or related documents. It's probably what you've seen in SharePoint already, where you view a document, you click that related documents item, and you get a list of documents that are like what you're currently viewing. But again, the nice thing about this is I haven't asked my user to jump to Enterprise Search to actually get this content. If you're here, I already know you might want this next. I'm not asking you to click a refinement. If I click a document, we get a new refinement or a new document context, and then we adjust the expert sites and results accordingly to that context. So if you think about it, user adoption here, it's already done. I haven't asked my user to jump to a site, haven't asked them to do anything outside of open the document that you're already interested in. Haven't had to really train them. I mean, if your user asks, what does this button do, my response is click it. See what happens.
Do you have a live demo of this online?
Not online. This is actually a live functioning system.
Right, but does your company have a live?
We have a self-running presentation. If you go to discovertechnologies.com, there's a self-running presentation that kind of goes through the, it's like 2.5, 3 minutes.
If you can get a working demo, that would be good.
Yeah, if you're interested in it, please let me know, and we can talk after the fact. Okay, now that's good. I personally, we were thrilled when we got to this point. And I can tell you from a corporate perspective, like I said, Microlink was acquired 3 years ago, or just about 2 years ago now. And we had this 2 years ago with FAST, SharePoint. FAST DSP, and then subsequently FAST SharePoint, I'm sorry. And, we liked it. We thought it was something unique. It was a good offering, and we could see where people really use it. But what's the problem here? SharePoint web parts. Great, flexible, easy to configure, easy to deploy. Try getting this across every page of your site, wherever a user goes. It's a burden. You can script it, but then how do you get something new? How do you manage it? It's just not manageable. You put in site templates. You can put it. You can adjust the master pages to adopt for it, but then every master page customization you have to include it. So, how many of you guys are SharePoint developers here in general? I got a few. You guys know about page header controls? Right. So now, instead of dropping stuff on my site, forcing you to, or dropping stuff in web parts and force you to continually go through and interrogate and adjust these pages, we can now place this all throughout SharePoint using a page header control. So what this allows us to do is now use what I talked about, that site context. So if I'm here, we keep this icon down on the lower right. We call our Discover More option. Click it. Again, think about the user training involved with this. The button right there, just press it. Don't jump to a site, don't type in the URL, just press it. Experts, documents, sites, related not just to what you see, but also the documents underneath. Again, a nice way to get search out of that search center box. It's where the user lives. He's already here. He's already at this point. The nice features here also, hit them where they live. If they've invested in the unified communication stack, give them the ability to chat, call, leverage that investment that they've already placed money in. If they haven't leveraged it, it disappears. So a very easy way to allow your end users to really interact. And again, the way this is built, you can actually adjust this. So let's say this is a legal company and they wanted legal case for precedence. You can add additional scopes, per se. Those of you familiar with SharePoint, where you can scope down the searches, you can do that here and segment that out.
So you have a search scope, and first of all, right? Then you would add a.
We didn't do it via scopes. We actually allow you. You can use the scope, but we allow you to define the fast query, which could be scope. When I click this, append this query to the to this method, and you can basically add in new features that way. And again, this is all done on the front end, XSLT, CSS, jQuery. So we've had customers add in things that are completely unrelated to search, but they want that part of the user interface. When they go there, they want the HR information always to pop up in the top window. Well, that's fine. You can use it for that too. All right. So typical search scenario. We saw this all the time when at Microlink working with doing enterprise search. Customer would go to a site. They'd read some information of interest, whether it be a Word document, PowerPoint, what have you. What do? They copy. Then they go to SharePoint or whatever site they were using for search at the time. They paste. Again, what have you already done? You've taken them out of the user experience. They were interested in that document. They were interested in that content. In our case, like I said, hit them where they live. They highlight, put that button in front of them. Click this. You want search, you're interested in it, click now. You don't have to copy, paste, jump into another site. You're already here. Now, again, we adjust our targeting context to the keyword context. Experts, documents, and sites based on the selected text. To show that nothing's up my sleeve, pick another set of text. Pop up, discover more. There we go. We're going to get a different set of recommendations.
This works across browser.
Yes, jQuery. That was one of our key reasons for going that route. That allows us to get a lot of the cross-browser issues solved. And you'll see again, our recommendations context will change based on that. A key point we like to highlight. Again, those of you who are FAST developers, how many of you guys have been asked with FAST to give me a relevancy number? Which we all know doesn't exist. So I'm not going to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. We all know it's an arbitrary number, but we can make arbitrary numbers that users agree with and therefore subsequently accept and complete the user experience. So you notice by each of these values, we actually have a set of relevancy numbers, and we have ways to adjust the weighting and calculations based on the fields within enterprise search. So what I really like to highlight here, if you look at Sienda Shimmer, her number is 28 initially with the what we call the site context. So in relation to the site and all the documents underneath, she's close to 28% relevant to that content. Whereas when I highlight the term millimeter wave and backscatter, she's a lot more relevant. She's more of a person of interest when I highlighted those specific terms. Even though they were contained in the site, it's more of a scope down search, more of a focused search. So now we can present her as a more detailed expert. She doesn't have that much content. But if I click that and get her discovered context, so again, this is a expertise context now used to show documents related to her expertise profile. You can see one of the top items she's produced that's related to that term, changes in airport screening technologies and procedures, which if you look at the text, I highlight it. They're talking about different types of imaging technology. So again, adjusting that targeting, adjusting that context to deliver the content at the right point in time. Does that make sense to everyone in the room? I mean, you guys can, in general, see how that's done. You know, there's obviously a lot more behind it. You know, like I said, one of the things we pulled with Discover when we came over was we pulled the patent on how we do some of the expertise recommendations. But even outside of that, you guys can see how you could deliver a lot of this natively with FAST out of the box with some customization. You know, again, and there's obviously we believe we have a lot of value adds, but there's a lot of capability we see underutilized with the FAST platform. By keeping it constrained in that search center, in that search box, you're really not getting the most of your investment, in my opinion. You know, it's a really dynamic platform, and what it does a good job at is giving you that relational context. You know, and when we show this to customers and we deploy it on site, they get it. It's the nice thing we like about this type of technology is I'm not telling you how you can use it. We actually have customers tell us, here's what we're doing. We've had proposal management. You know, we have a proposal. We pick a top candidate, and then we get related proposals of our pool of applicants that we use to filter them. You know, like I said, legal's a big one. Sir?
Would you mind digressing a little bit on the, how you actually establish the expertise? Mm-hmm. Because there are a number of different ways. Here it appears it has mostly to do with related to documents that have to be published within an organization, presumably. Mm-hmm. Are there any other ways that you can also do that? And I spent a few years in a knowledge management group in a large law firm, and they're talking to the partners and say, well, I might know in my practice area who actually knows something, who has certain experience, but I don't know who has anything to do with something what appears to be similar with something Atlanta here in the Paris office relating to Moroccan oil fields or something on the Canary Islands. That wouldn't necessarily be anything to publish. And also, to touch on that, I may feel that I'm really good at playing the guitar, but you may feel differently.
Right.
So I might put myself in an expert on the guitar. Who adjudicates what expertise is actually about?
Okay, and that's where we leverage in the process. So I'll talk to the second scenario first. The second scenario where, hey, I say I'm the best developer ever. If you ever have a C# question, C++ question, you come talk to me. You know, you ask my development team, they'll laugh. You know, we'll get in that debate. That's another one. But what would denote that? Search relevancy. I can plug it in, like I said, I can account for your my site, and we can boost that up if you want, or we can leave it as relevant as the rest of the document. But if I have loaded documents talking about C++ development, C++ white papers, I will walk up the stack as opposed to someone else on the team. Again, search relevancy does that for us. That was something we definitely took into account when we looked at, if I fill this out in my site, do I want it to take precedence or do I not? Now, the other item, and I'll try to shape the question, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is I have, I know this person's an expert, but they haven't published any content around it. Okay. There are ways you can tag where I can say this document, these documents associated with this individual. And that is, if you have a good knowledge management platform and you know how to do that, that's great. What we find in most organizations, they aren't that far yet. It's great if they are, and you can do that, whereas, because then again, really it's just associating authorship to the right person. If you've got that knowledge intrinsic in your organization, you can import that to search and effectively leverage that same feature. But if you don't, how do you get there? We've seen organizations where the secretary posts documents for the professor. Instead of making her the expert, we need to adjust and make the professor the expert. So those are things you have to account for with the data importation and the integration into search itself, more than the worried about the presentation side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like when I get to an organization, they tell, we work with one organization, and they talk about how they globally tagged all their documents with the enterprise taxonomy and then spread it across 6 different sub-taxonomies. And I was like, man, this was, I say, you just made everything 10 times easier for us because we've already got all the relational content. I know that when you click this, I mean, that's a perfect refiner drill for SharePoint. If I search for it, you can click those refiners and find what you want. Out of the organizations I work with, I haven't seen another one that has done it yet.
Are they doing all this tagging in SharePoint?
They were doing it in an external content management tool, and effectively, it was convoluted. But it was wrapped together by effectively they had their tagging tool, another item to go through and denote where their global taxonomy maps to the individual sub-taxonomy, and then obviously we had FAST on the back end to help surface all those results. Took a lot to get from there to there, from there to here, but it's phenomenal when you see it in play. It does exactly what you want from a taxonomy perspective. Now, as a matter of fact, I'll ask the room, how many of you have found an organization that has their taxonomy fleshed out in all their content tags? Yeah, that's typical. They're the only ones I've seen that have done that. So that's why, to me, leveraging tools like FAST to give you that relational information, that's where they really come into play. I can take, obviously if I throw too much junk in, I'm going to get a lot of junk out. But I can take effectively a good summary of content, a good amount of content, stuff it in the FAST. When I search for something, which is what search does, it's going to return me an item of relevance. Well, if I now change that on its axis and give it a context, so take this set of terms, this bundle of terms, and give me something related to this, well, now I'm getting related context, and I can do that with documents, expertise, site, any other item that I can conceptualize into a search engine. So. All right. Any other questions? Sir?
Are you going to get to some of the high-level architecture and what the components are?
I can talk to them. I don't have a diagram on it per se.
I'm curious, what are the components and like the footprint, and what is the experience of integrating it?
Okay.
If you already have a base SharePoint FAST installed.
Right. If you have basic SharePoint FAST, and a common question we get is, what type of hardware do I need to run this? And my comment is always, one of the things we focus on is really making this, I would say it's search intensive, but it's obviously going to leverage your search platform. You're going to get much more search utilization than you did prior. So when you look at it, for example, your first site, if you built out your FAST architecture, you scale out you've got your columns for, queries per second, and then you've got your rows for redundancy. So what I'm doing at this point, I'm running 3 separate individual searches when this user logs on. So that's great from a user perspective. Now, if every user that hits this page runs 3 separate searches, it's going to increase search utilization. Now, what we found in most organizations are they're very, I guess they've planned much more hardware than they need for search. I haven't found an organization that once we drop this on it, that they see, we do monitor utilization and monitor performance. And most servers that we see don't even bat an eyelid. This is a pretty quick search. If you were to go into, SharePoint search, type in a set of search terms to get these same results back, not using our algorithm, but any set of terms per se, it's going to come back pretty quick, and that's what we're doing. So you're going to increase query utilization, that's something to take into account. So, scale that out with your organization, and also it depends on how you use it. Web parts, depend on where you place them. To discover more, it's really going to be kind of how inquisitive are your users. If your users are always, hey, I'm actually interested in that, then you get more hits. To decrease that, that's why you notice we use the AJAX controls there. That query isn't actually run until you click that button. And we're not running all 3 queries. We don't run the query until you click the next one. So we are trying to scope down the impact. But you do want more utilization. That's the whole idea behind this type of, this type of search user experience is leveraging what's in search. So you want to increase utilization. Does that help answer your question?
That's part of it. And then you're also monitoring users' behavior and requiring that behavior and storing it somewhere.
Right.
Indexing it later. How does that work?
So we do have, and to show that, let me go here. So we're going to take a look at discovered information. What I'm going to do is this. Control, click. I'm going to pull up. So we're going to take a look at the discovered documents right here. And our best case here, so if I have a user that actually goes through Search Center in this case, and we search for all those fun things the guys at TSA look for, bombs, guns, all the things you don't want to say in a crowded room. What we start to do then is we start to effectively build. That's where we build our query usage profile. We don't have our navigation profiling, which is as you click. We don't have that on here, but you can do that also. So I'll search for that. Search for that. And I don't know if you noticed on the top right, we have this Discover profile that comes up. Yeah. So what we allow you to do is, and you can add new items here also. And the discovered information and the recommendations that we talked about, we augment that initial recommendations profile, your expertise, with these terms, and you can adjust the weight that you're interested in. And effectively, they are similar to FAST, where you can go through and then say, I want to add these terms to the query, and then shape your results. So you can effectively get more discrete matches. If you know your users are interested in these items, you can do it that way. From an architecture perspective, we do have a SQL backend to store that. That's a piece that's off of the SharePoint backend, but everything else is done via query and search and FAST.
How many databases?
1. We only have 1 in our architecture. Again, it's pretty open though, the way we deploy it. So if I go back to the discovered information page, I'm going to rerun this. My suggested documents will change, as well as my experts and sites. There we go. So you can see I now have Justice Administration. Still have some body scanners because, again, it's in my expertise profile. I've got different recommendations from user context. So the airport scanner site and a couple other air marshal site is now up there. And that's, again, based on if your users actually have gone through the drill of typing in those search terms, we can adjust based on that. We actually do document context and view context. We turn it off for the demo because we know we're going to find this information. But you can turn it on that, when I click the document view, for example, here, that we build another profile item for this type of document and take that into account. So that's just, again, another feature of the platform. Does that answer your question? Raise more questions?
Yeah, this is obviously a solution that's made out of a bunch of component parts. Trying to get my mind around what all the pieces are, right?
Right. So let me do this. And I'm normally a whiteboard guy. I don't know how many of you are football fans. I always joke. I said, I'm like the Madden guy from a developer's perspective. Put the code over here, runs over, hits this guy. Knocks the sun out of this guy. Boom, we've got a working product. But so the components are this. And I'm going to just cover it from this perspective. You can kind of get how the discover context works. What we do is that expertise profile. So it's really actually 4 searches. When you log on here, we build a profile based on the documents you produce. And we look at certain key items that are stored inside enterprise search and say, okay, here's who this person is about. So we build effectively, you can almost think like a search entity for you. We say, here's who you are, here's what you're about, to the organization. So with that, I can now take that conceptual body and say, what is like this body of information, this conceptual search entry. And when I do that, if I do the same thing to these other people on the back end, I now start to get people that are related to what I do based on search. Again, we're using that search to really give us a relational context. Documents, the same thing. It's just like I talked about that. Select when you see it in SharePoint. I hit similar document, that same type of concept, but now it's taking you making you an entity that can be a similar document. We're now making you similar to people, documents, and sites. So how we do the expertise, like I said, that's actually something we actually have a patent on. But the documents, that's just a document. If I'm viewing the document, you can do that in SharePoint now. You can see how that works. Sites, again, similar to that same expertise matching. It's taking the site and making a similar entry for it and then getting the related items. So from an architecture perspective, what we've got when you hit this page, you make a call back to what I call the ASHX handler. And I always end up butchering that for some reason. So if that basically returns XML back to the front end, to each of these components. With the XML that comes back is, so we call them and say, give me suggested colleagues for this conceptual entry that we build when you log in. It says, okay, you're the people that come back in the XML stream. Here are the documents in another XML stream. Here are the sites in an XML stream. It's based on the calls you make to them.
Like coming from the index, just like your all results XML that you get.
Right. We do some work before it comes out of the index to shape it up. But if you wanted to, you could, let's say if you were doing it yourself, trying this at home, you could take the results out of the index and say you were using the query web services that come out, and you had the the query XML blob that gets returned. You can basically shape that up with an XML, XLT on the front end and start to really render these types of displays. So what we do is we take that, and then at this point we've got lines of content, lines of data, and we're just shaping the display based on what's returned. Here we got, this is coming from their my site, their profile. Matter of fact, I did lie. I did no profile entry. We put in their pictures. That was it. All right, so we take the pictures out of their my site profile. Here we're adding, this is the add colleagues function. So now if I know this individual, and he's in SharePoint, well, we can give you an option to add him as a colleague. We can do the colleague manager check to see if he exists. That's the discover context. So now, again, take that row of information for this individual, that expertise context we just shaped, and run a query based on that to give me a related item. And that's the mapping function. We don't have any mapping entities integrated on this demonstration platform, but we did that just because a long time ago we got asked to do stuff with being mapped. We're like, hey, that's actually pretty cool. Leave it in there. And it, it worked. So from an architecture perspective, again, we've got XML, XSLT, CSS on the front end. After a call to a data handler that returns XML back. And on the back end, that data handler is making a call to the fast query platform to return, basically shaping the query to give us these related items based on the different context that we feed it, whether it be a user context, a document context, or site context. Does that help?
The bit that you're talking about, that sort of black box, when you have the patent on it, how much can clients configure that? So
very configurable.
Very configurable, but
yes.
just in terms of the mechanism you
What we do from that perspective, and it's not that big of a black box. I mean, I have to do my due diligence, and again, I can't give it all away in one shot. But we allow you to adjust, boosting based on specific fields, specific location, based on context. So you can say, if I'm at this site, take these fields, push it up, and it's pretty configurable. And again, that's why I keep kind of going back to documents, similar documents. I think what we have is pretty compelling, but it's not rocket science. You've got it with similar documents in SharePoint. We're giving you different ways to really give recommended context and really deliver that information. Now, like anything, why do we do it as a product? Because there's a lot. Just like those of you developers know, yeah, we can all build it, but do you want to take the time to do it? That's another story. But there are features that if you had, hey, client, you just want this capability and it's there past SharePoint, propose it, use it. You know, we want, for us, from a product perspective as a company, the more enterprise search we see out there, the more greenfields that we have available. You know, so we want to see search utilized. You know, we want to help get search embedded in organizations because this doesn't work without fast SharePoint on the back end. You know, you have SharePoint search, I'm shaking your hand and saying, hey, have a nice day. You know, call me when he gets that. You know, but yeah, fast search, we can have a serious discussion. You know, so, and that's where, you know, after this, then you have questions. You know, you guys want some assistance. You know, maybe you're interested in leveraging some things like this. Please let me know. You know, we want you guys to, you know, spread it out there, get it used. Like I said, I think enterprise search is probably one of the most underutilized pieces of SharePoint right now. You think about it, they're focused there on visualization, business intelligence, and search is search and retrieval. You know, and you hate to say it, you know, I call it the Google-esque experience. You know, box up there, run a term, and click, 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 which is great when you know what you're looking for. But what happens when you don't know what you're looking for? You're just browsing, and I can give you something you're looking for without you having to ask for it. That's what this is. That's really us driving the use of the content, really making search part of the user experience, and really us, you know, leveraging what we've got on the back end, making use of that investment. That help? Please, if you got any other questions.
What about tying into other products or other applications? If you can take the CRM, it comes like very close to this. And
on the roadmap, good call. CRM.
People record things about people in there to that extent, whether they're personal or not.
Absolutely.
As far as I go to a site and search for something, and how much do you track how long I am on that site, what am I hovering on, and how do you incorporate that into, say, oh, maybe he or she has some information in that, or...
Right. We don't have it native, you know, intrinsic to the application, but you can do what you talked about, and we've looked at it, which is, I've seen some interesting things on that, especially around heat mapping. I don't know if you're familiar with that technology. But basically, what heat mapping is let's say I were to take this page, and what I want to do, instead of showing a bunch of terms, I want to know, where do most people spend their time on this page? Are they clicking items over here? Do they kind of hover their mouse over and wait for a second and go somewhere else? And there are plenty of ways publicly available, and you know, if you guys are interested, email, I'll shoot you some of the things we found. But you can basically track how long a user is hovering over a specific area. So think about that from a search context perspective. If you now wanted to, we talked about the profiling. Well, if he's hovering over management and aviation for an inordinate amount of time, maybe that's something I want to start targeting to him next time he comes to the site. You know, now I'm starting to give him information. I haven't even asked him to click anything. You're just literally maybe kind of interested, maybe kind of not. You know, you can build that into your own model of, do you wait 5 seconds? Do you wait 10 seconds? Do you, keep 20 items? Do you keep 10 items? Those are all things you'd have to develop yourself, but those are possibilities and capabilities that you can do with this type of platform. And again, you can do that with native fast SharePoint.
Is there a dependency that these documents move in SharePoint?
No, so I talked about that where search being a normalization tier, and that's another key benefit. Whereas you talked about CRM, if I came here and these entries were in CRM, great. There's search entry and search results. Thousands of search results. Something completely custom, database. Then search, this is search result. We can profile and deliver information based on that. And that's another key feature. Again, when you're talking to your clients about enterprise search adoption, how are you going to leverage that investment that you in your legacy system? That if you've now invested in SharePoint, you've done this great development effort. You've got all these backend systems that you aren't going to touch, and you don't want to go through a coding effort to recode all this in SharePoint. But you can leverage all that content. You can surface it via search. It's a quick, I would say it's relatively inexpensive as opposed to a development effort to get this stuff into search and get it surfaced through the UI. Leverage what you've got. You spend all this time and effort and money doing it. Let's get it out. Let's get it exposed. Okay. Anything else? I'm used to dodging daggers and bullets up here, so it's getting pretty easy. All right. Any other questions? One? Everybody wants to get to the drinks. So, all right. Jimmy, do you want me to cover anything else? Yeah, I can go longer if you want, or if you guys have any more questions.
How do you productize your product?
How do we productize it? We've got a discrete product offering. That's what I talked about, our Discover Point product. And the nice thing is this is our core product installed on top of SharePoint with faster SharePoint. So if you've got the content in the organization, you drop our product on these parts or activate the feature that has the Discover More button or the Discover More selection, it's there on 8 out of the box.
And as far as customization, you said that you provide the consulting services for that.
We do. Again, we do standard. It's just like anything. If faster SharePoint doesn't work, neither does our product. So we actually have a service on not just around this product, but just around faster SharePoint in general. And like I said, our focus on exposing everything via XSLT leaves it completely, the UI completely customizable to the end consumer. As I said, the best successes we've had have been with other customers ripping our logo, ripping everything we put in there out and making it their own. Because then it's not some off-the-shelf just stacked on product. It's something they've invested in, something they thought out, and something their end consumers buy into. So I can tell you just in our experience, we found the most successful deployments that happen with these type of enterprise search scenarios. Our product or any other enterprise search actually are driven by a design effort up front than just an integration effort. The design guys have a completely different mindset than your integration guys normally. I'm an integration guy. I think of wiring A to B, the glue with C's in the middle, successful. Design guy thinks of user sees this, clicks this makes sense. Here's a good flow. And when the design guy gives me that workflow, that layout, that design, that flow, makes perfect sense. Oh yeah, absolutely, I can do that. Ask me to think about that, not going to happen. Like I said, you're going to get a box with some text. Congratulations, you've got search results. It makes sense to me. But now you tell me you want the same box with text that allows you to click and jump to the next box related to this organism. Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. We can do that, but that's something I don't make that leap just naturally. That's just not the way my mind is wired. And most of our dev guys, we find that tends to be the case. So, I guess any enterprise search in general, and even just development in general, what we found that the best successes are driven by getting a good design effort up front and really fleshing that out. Sir?
Is it that relevancy model that makes fast necessary as opposed to like just enterprise search?
The relevancy model? What do you mean as opposed to just using SharePoint?
Standard search.
So there's some things SharePoint search doesn't give you. If you look at the way similar documents are done, if you look underneath it, FAST gives you doc vectors. I don't know if you've looked at the kind of the covers underneath. That's what really allows you to start doing these type of relational type of capabilities. Again, we've got some unique ways of using them, but that's what allows you to get there. SharePoint doesn't give you that capability. It's just not there. So it's funny. I look at a funny story now. When we joined Microlink years ago, they were, like I said, a big autonomy partner, enterprise search partner. And I remember we were going to spin off. We were all set. We had everything, the business model in place. We had a couple contracts in place. We were gung-ho. We were ready to go. One of the guys comes and says, "Yeah, this is guy Dave, Tom, Dave True, something or whatever else, Dave Truitt." And they work with some autonomizer, the Autonomon, or something, this search product. We're like, SharePoint got search. We're good. So it took all of us, I'd say about an hour of us sitting with their search team for us to go, okay, whatever we're doing now in SharePoint, we need to rip that out and put it in an enterprise search platform. That's how we started getting into FAST, autonomy, and really starting building these type of dynamic displays, because SharePoint search, while good from a keyword perspective, doesn't give you that, it just doesn't give you what you need from a development model or a relevancy perspective from an end user. We actually got commissioned to do a white paper for Microsoft talking about why would you leverage enterprise search versus SharePoint search. And our paper says, okay, for a standard search experience, which is you go to Search Center, you type in some keywords, and you get results back, and you want to get keyword matches, 85% of those cases, you're good with regular search. You know, let's be honest. If my only interest is typing in a term and finding a keyword match, I can use SQL for that. You know, it's just a keyword match. Now, if you really want to do something dynamic, relational, you know, like I said, based on context, SharePoint Search won't get you there. And that's, you know, that's really where we see these type of dynamically driven user interfaces. That's where we leverage the enterprise search faster for SharePoint platform versus the native out-of-the-box SharePoint.
What about competitors? How do you stand?
I have no competitors. No. So,
what makes you better product than, let's say, BA Insight?
Good question. I was waiting for that. So, BA Insight has their unique capabilities. They do a great job with, especially their key view technology. And I'll be the first to tell someone, you want, you know, quick preview technology in search, go to BA Insight. They do a good job with it, fabulous job with it. That's not something we want to do. They don't do relational context. They don't do, you know, relational profiling. That's something where we're unique, and we believe we excel quite well there. You know, I'd be lying to you. I mean, you saw the background autonomy, fast ESP. What happened? Well, we got fast ESP. We were like, autonomy is doing that. Why isn't ESP doing it? Like, we know kind of how autonomy is doing it, and we know where autonomy is falling short in a lot of areas, in our opinion. So we can build it for both. And then, you know, we got more and more into ESP, in my opinion, at the time. The ESP was a better development platform. We got more reliable results. And so we really started developing along that path and made a true investment. With the acquisition, then it just became a no-brainer. We had already invested in it. You know, autonomy, one of the autonomy stuff, great to have it. We took the fast stuff and ran with it. So but to your answer, there are some discrete differences. If there's overlap, it's very minimal between us and BA Insight. We see other search technologies that are, you know, they do recommendations based on search. But the key item there is they're asking you to search first. What we're doing is, like I said, we can, all these parts can actually be embedded with search. We make a point of not putting these in the search center. You can put them there and get experts with our expertise context recommended. But our focus is your users will go, you get them there the first. Again, like they hit them where they live. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, if anybody has any questions, feel free. You can hit our standard information, info@discoverytechnologies.com. If you want to talk to me directly, let me know. I'll give you my card. Feel free to call me anytime. Like I said, it's obviously as a product company, we're interested in selling product, but for us to be successful, we want search. You know, as far as we're concerned, search everywhere. The more enterprise search is out there, the more capabilities we all have from a dynamic user experience, better user satisfaction, better utilization of the technology that's already there. So, you know, I'd love to talk to you guys about ways of helping your customers, you know, get down the path and really start, you know, leveraging this investment they've already made. All right. Bet, Jimmy. Do you want to put up your other slide?